Tell us, what made you finally make the decision to go to wrestling school? Like, when did it all come
Mhm.
about? You joining wrestling school?
So for me, it's always been the one and only thing I ever knew that I wanted to do. Um, because I'm in school and everything, and they're like, "What do you want to do with your future?" I'm like, "No, I want to be a wrestler." And like, "What do you actually want to do?" And I'm like, "No, I want to be a wrestler." Um, and I'm out of high school, and I'm taking some time to figure out what I'm going on forward. And my introduction is kind of a little weird to wrestling. Somehow I managed to get my foot in the door at the local scene out here, and I would help set up the rings for the shows. And once those were put together, there was time before the shows where they allowed me to get in the ring and kind of try to train myself. um I got lucky, and eventually there were some guys that were properly trained that like saw my hard work and saw that I wanted it, and they were willing to kind of help me with the basics and just showing me a little bit of stuff until they knew that I wanted to stick around, because if I was them, I wouldn't just show me everything either. um
Mhm.
And then eventually down the road, I lucked into finally getting to meet my two main trainers, Dom Vitale and Gabriel Gallo. Um, I talked to them, and we set up me meeting them, and I met them at the school, the Arizona Pro Wrestling Training Center, and it was just off the races from there.
Mhm. And tell us, what was like your first day of training like? What was the whole experience like for you going into wrestling school for the first time?
So this school, in my opinion, does things very different than most do, but I also think it's done the right way. We have a very specific process where we have to do 6 weeks of cardio and conditioning training
Mhm.
outside of the ring, which is great because that ring is right there. That's your fuel. You see it. You're not allowed to touch it, get in it, but you know that's what you want. So you're willing to do
Mhm.
whatever they ask you to do outside of the ring. Um, Before that, they have a tryout to make sure that you're physically fit enough to even handle that.
Mhm.
Um, and that was just a big like wake up call that I at the time wasn't exactly where I needed to be, but it was great because it gives you like almost a roadmap of, okay, if I can do these things, that's step one. And something that they told me they saw right away was a lot of heart and not wanting to give up and seeing that I actually did want to do this, and being able to put that forth. I've always kind of been an athlete. In school I did football. I was always super into weightlifting, so I was physically capable. um in those 6 weeks I just got better and better, and then it was finally time to step into the ring.
Like your first match, like when you first made your
Your first one.
debut, like what was that
Okay.
like? Like how did it feel come out of the curtain for the first time?
So to go back on that, I kind of had an unofficial type of debut a
Mhm.
couple months before the official. So that first one was a Halloween costume battle royal,
Oh.
to where it was mostly just students. So the guys that I was training coming up with, this was all our first chance to wrestle in front of a crowd. And I got to be John Cena in that battle royal and
Oh
kind of
my.
do the John Cena thing where I started at number one and I ran the table and all the way through, and I won it in the end. And that was something super special to me. But beyond that, a couple months later, I made my actual debut alongside my tag team partner to this day, MBW, against
Mhm.
our trainers Dom and Gallo in a tag.
Mhm.
So I would say I walked through that curtain, and everyone told me that if they felt like I owned the place, and that's how I felt. Like I walked through and I was like, "This is it. I've made it. I'm doing it." And I was confident in who I was. And Dom and Gallo made us earn our debut for sure, I would say, in that match.
That's so cool, man. That's so awesome, man. And tell me back, also like with your name too, like Dallas King. Like where did that come
Hmm.
from? Like how did you get that name?
So Dallas, that's my actual name.
Oh.
Um, and then King, it's I could just kind of all fell into place. Um, I think I was having a conversation with Joe Graves, who's one of Dom and Gallo's close friends, and he's an
Mhm.
absolute genius, and he's an ass kicker. And we just kind of sat and talked about what I what I wanted to do and like my goals and everything. And he kind of came up with it and threw it at me. He's like, "What do you think of this?" And I don't know, it just kind of fit and it stuck. And then over time, that's who I am now.
That's cool. I mean, and I like the name too. I think you made your debut on PCW Ultra. Tell us,
Yep.
how did that come about? You having a match there, PCW.
So the powers that be at that show, it's kind of very tight knit with the people back here, and they have eyes. You never know who's watching you, and they had seen our school and just see what we could do. And I guess I stood out a lot to them, and I was just there that night, and they needed people. They're like, "We have this spot available. We feel like you've earned it. We want you to take it." And it was just last minute, just throw it on and go out there. And it was such it was a blast. It was all of that work, I felt like, finally paying off with that, because I remember being there as a student, just helping out at the show and watching it go on. And that show is huge. That show
Oh,
is something
yeah.
special.
Oh yeah, especially because like like for us, like we're from California, so like we're always hearing big things in PCW, and especially like their
Yeah.
next shows coming up, like they're always bringing like big names and exciting matches, and the fact that like you debuted there and you killed it, like it's awesome, especially with the
Mhm.
big audience they have with PCW, which is great. Someone's watching this and wants to become a professional wrestler. What advice could you give to someone that wants to be in this business?
I think you could never, a lot of people see it and they kind of take for granted how hard it really is. Even the most basic of things are more difficult than they appear to the eye. I think being in the gym consistently is the most important thing. And not just lifting weights. You don't got to be, everyone can't be Alex Hammerstone, but you can still be in some semblance of shape. And I think cardio, even above that, is like the most important. You can never have good enough cardio, it could always be better. And none of that cardio is going to prepare you for once you step into that ring, but it's definitely going to make it easier than having none. So just being in the gym as much as you possibly can and working on all those different skills, speed, strength, endurance. I think that's the most important thing, especially before entering a school.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Totally agree. And, it's great advice. And everyone that's watching, please listen because it's such great advice. You want to be a wrestler, please listen to this man. Again, thank you so much, Dallas, for being on.